Brilliance Audio presents The Tehran Initiative by Joel C. Rosenberg, performed by Christopher Lane. Islamabad, Pakistan.
I have come to re-establish the Caliphate.
At any other time in history, such an utterance could have come only from the lips of a madman. But Muhammad ibn Hassan ibn Ali said it so matter-of-factly and with such authority that Iskandar Farooq was tempted not to challenge the notion.
I have come to bring peace and justice, and to rule the earth with a rod of iron, he continued. This is why Allah sent me. He will reward those who submit. He will punish those who resist. But make no mistake, Iskandar. In the end, every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall confess that I am the Lord of the age.
The satellite reception was crystal clear. The voice of the promised one, the 12th Imam, or Mahdi, was calm, his statements airtight. Iskandar Farooq thought as he pressed the phone to his ear and paced back and forth along the veranda of his palace overlooking northeastern Islamabad. He knew what the Mahdi wanted, but every molecule in his body warned him not to accede to his demands. They were not presented as demands, of course, but that's precisely what they were. And while the Mahdi made it all sound wise and reasonable, Farooq heard an edge of menace in the man's tone, and this made him all the more wary. The early morning air was bitterly and unusually cold. The sun had not yet risen over the pine trees and paper mulberries of the Margala hills. Yet Farooq could already hear the chants of the masses less than a block away. "Give praise to Imam al-Mahdi!" they shouted again and again. "Give praise to Imam al-Mahdi!" A mere 100 tanks and 1,000 soldiers and special police forces now protected the palace. Only they kept the crowds, estimated at over 250,000 Pakistanis, from storming the gates and seizing control. But how loyal were they? If the number of protesters doubled, or tripled, or worse, by dawn, or by lunchtime, how much longer could he hold out? He had to make a decision quickly, Farooq knew, and yet the stakes could not be higher.
"What say you?" the Mahdi asked. "You owe me an answer."
Iskandar Farooq had no idea how to respond. As President of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, the 56-year-old former chemical engineer was horrified that Tehran had suddenly become the seat of a new caliphate. Though the Mahdi had not formally declared the Iranian capital as the epicenter of the new Islamic kingdom, every Muslim around the world certainly suspected this announcement was coming soon. Farooq certainly did, and it infuriated him. Neither he nor his father's father had ever trusted the Iranians. The Persian Empire had ruled his ancestors, stretching in its day from India in the east to Sudan and Ethiopia in the west. Now the Persians wanted to subjugate them all over again. True, Iran's Shah had been the first world leader to formally recognize the independent state of Pakistan upon its declaration of independence in 1947, but it had been a brief window of friendliness. After Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini had come to power in 1979, tensions between the two states had spiked. Khomeini had led an Islamic revolution that was thoroughly Shia in all its complexions, and this had not sat well with the Pakistanis. Neither Farooq nor his closest advisers, nor anyone he had known growing up, had ever believed that the 12th Imam was coming to earth one day, or that such a figure would actually be the Islamic Messiah, or that he would usher in the end of days, much less that Sunnis would end up joining a caliphate led by him. Farooq's teachers had all mocked and ridiculed such notions as the heresy of the Shias, and Farooq had rarely given the matter any thought. Now what was he to believe? The 12th Imam was no longer some fable or myth like Santa Claus for the pagans and Christians or the Tooth Fairy for children everywhere. Now the Mahdi, or someone claiming to be the Mahdi, was here on the planet. Now this so-called promised one was taking the Islamic world by storm, electrifying the masses and instigating insurrections wherever his voice was heard.